Welcome back to another episode of the Know Your Power podcast. I am your host, Kendall Aaliyah.
And I'm Julia Renee.
And today we are talking about insecurities.
Yeah.
We all got them.
Yay!
But you had something you want to say first, so I'll let you say
first.
It was
just so adorable because
Okay.
I posted on my Instagram story, but by the time y'all are listening to this, it's probably like old news. Anyways, you know, we film things a week early.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom texted me the day of the Arnold Expo, and she goes, I'm doing it in her voice, I think. Maybe I can go with you to your next trip. Taylor Swift takes her mom to her shows.
Oh, I saw this on your story.
Yeah.
She is so cute.
And I just put LOL, and she goes, hey, it's true.
Also, though, imagine either of our moms at a fitness expo.
I know.
My mom would get, and she loves people,
My
but
mom-
she would get so overwhelmed.
Yeah,
There's so much going on.
My mom doesn't like people. She does like people, but she's more
like me.
She's more shy and
Yeah.
reserved. I'm like, you can come, mom, but she
Sit behind the booth
She would
with
have
me.
anxiety the whole time.
That's so funny.
I'm like, you could just.
You know, it would be
behind-
fun to bring them, to be honest.
It would. Be.
Maybe next Olympia,
Be like,
we can do a
"Hi,
mom Olympia. I brought my mommy.
Mom Olympia.
Well,
Hi."
yeah, because you'll be competing, so
true.
we'll have to all come.
Yeah, she'll get to come there. I'm like, you can just come to that. I can get you some VIP.
Bring
I don't know.
me with you
I don't
like
know what
Taylor
we're just-
Swift.
bring me like-
Okay, but today we are talking about just conquering your insecurities and a guide to kind of overcoming them. And I'm someone, and I want to talk about this, also a mom story. Look at us bringing our moms. My mom calls me every time and she's like, I like that you talked about me on today's episode.
My mom too. She's like, I heard you talked about me.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
They're usually good.
And
We don't hate that much.
I know.
But I was with my mom recently, like 2 weekends ago. She's always here. And we were just
She
like
is always
furniture, literally always here. Love it though. Again, not complaining. Love you, mom. Anyway, we were like walking into a store and I just had this thought and I had to say it. And I was like, isn't it crazy how I can be so present with you and so present in what we're doing now and not once talk badly about myself or be stuck in my own head and not in the moment? Because, and I did like a little Instagram caption on this a few days ago, but I am someone who lived so much in my head that looking back, I don't really live like with regrets, but like, of course we have things that we wish we did differently in the past. And the only thing I wish I could have changed about myself was being more present and less in my head about, oh, how do I look right now? What are they thinking about? Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I'm being too loud. Oh, I'm being too quiet. Just constantly over analyzing and creating and like feeding into these insecurities I already had. And it just like put myself in this bubble where I wasn't enjoying life because I wasn't living my life. I was literally
You were so-
living in my head.
Like you were inside yourself.
Yeah.
And you weren't actually like in the body.
Yeah, at
that
all. I wasn't present in conversations.
Yeah.
I wasn't present in relationships. Like I feel like I was just like a worse version of myself because of the way I was treating myself. And so I was just saying it to her where I was like, it's so freeing to be able to just enjoy a day with you as my mom without arguing about something or nitpicking myself to you or like blaming you for some trauma in my childhood, like anything negative that I used to do. I was like, it's so nice that I don't have those constantly running through my mind anymore. And that was a really long process. And I think that's why I had this random revelation because I wasn't actively working on it anymore. I was like, oh, this is just like an unconscious effort now to just enjoy life and enjoy myself and enjoy the body I have and not really care if I'm bloated or not bloated or if my acne's flaring up or not and not let these things control me anymore. So that's kind of why we want to talk about this today because I know how common insecurities are. We literally all have them. Like, of course, I still have insecurities now. It's just not letting it control your life anymore and kind of taking control of them and choosing how you view yourself and those insecurities.
Like kind of how you said, like when you really struggle with like a lot of insecurities and it really just like controls your inner head all day and everything, like the way that you speak to people, you're like, did I sound right? Did I look okay? Someone looks at you, just literally just looks at you and you're automatically like, oh my God, so, like I have something on my face. There's something that's wrong. Like you immediately go to that negative space instead of thinking like, maybe they just looked at me because they liked my outfit. Or maybe they just like looked in my direction.
Do you remember when I would do this?
Yes.
When there was a guy I was like briefly dating or like seeing and he would just like stare at me sometimes and I'd be like, literally, what do you want?
Literally what?
Because I would always assume is this person's seeing the ugly in me or the bad in me. And then they were like, I was just looking at like how good your eyes look, or just little things like that. And
I remember that exact moment.
Yeah, because that was also one of the most insecure stages of my life. So I was letting my own thoughts reflect onto them and just assume what they thought of me, and with every interaction I had.
Yeah, and that's just so much mental energy. It's like you're running a marathon in your head, and it's exhausting. It's like sometimes you're just like, I'm exhausted with all of these thoughts that are going in my head, and like you overthink every single situation. You just wake up and you walk around, and it's really hard to live that way.
So we're going to dive into some things on like how to stop living that way. And I didn't want to put them in order because I feel like everyone's like, it's almost like a healing process, and everyone's healing process is going to be different. So I think all of these working cohesively is how you actually overcome it. But of course, like one of the things is like battling past trauma or the reason we feel like this. Of course, some people can't just do that off the bat, and you have to like start healing and then you can tackle those things. So just saying these are a little out of order, but overall they help.
You choose the order.
Choose your own journey.
You decide.
Like those books where you can choose like the next passage. You know what I'm talking about?
What? No.
Yeah, there's books out there where you like choose the story. Like it's like, do you want this to happen? Go to this page. Do you want? You've never heard of these?
No.
They're from like childhood, but still.
I didn't know.
Kind of sick.
Kind of want one.
Anyway, you're like, I want to write this book myself.
I want one.
The first thing is self-reflection. I feel like identifying and acknowledging what your insecurities are is step number one, because if you're just like pushing them under a rug or not actually paying them like peace of mind, they're just going to continue to fester versus actually looking at, okay, like what am I insecure about and where did this stem from? I feel like is the most important thing. Was it something you created in your own head? Is it a trend? Those bother me the most. Like, I feel like hip dips are beautiful, and then TikTok came out and was like, hip dips are bad and here's how to get rid of them.
I was like, I didn't even know what a hip dip was.
And then everyone with hip dips goes, oh, is something wrong with me? Should I feel insecure about this? So did it come from like going along with the masses? Did your brother or sister make fun of you for something as a kid and you took that with you? Did your parents say something or do something and you took that with you? Just looking at what the origin is, and I guarantee like 90% of the time it's from years and years and years ago. It's not something that happened like last week. Maybe last week you started focusing on it and like really started giving it energy. But those thoughts and those feelings and those things we usually notice about ourselves don't typically come from within us. It comes from the people around us or our environment or the people around us and things like that. So I think identifying those are number one, because if you don't know what the source is or what exactly is bothering you, how are you ever going to fix it? You know?
Very, very true. And this can be also like a simple practice of, and this might hurt too. And it might be really difficult to do this practice, but like literally on a journal, making like a T chart, T chart from back in school, make a T chart on the left side. Like, what are those top 5 things that you feel insecure about daily, that you're negatively commenting about yourself? And then on the opposite side, writing like the truth, like what is the actual truth in that statement can be really powerful and help you identify like, what are these thoughts that I'm thinking daily that I'm running a marathon in my head thinking about? And on the right side, finding the truth. You can also just asking a friend too, because sometimes you're in a point where Kendall and I have been through this too together, where we're individually feeling like insecurity about a certain thing, and we'll just ask each other like, no, I need to hear the truth right now. Because I'm making up a bunch of stories in my head. I think there was like one time for me where we were doing a photo shoot. It was after my pro debut.
I like could show you the photos. I know the exact shoot.
I thought I was like, I look terrible. My abs are bloaty. And I like looked at Kendall and was like, I need like the truth right now, because obviously my eyeballs are not seeing reality. And sometimes that really helps, especially asking like a really close friend or a partner and being like, I'm feeling this way about this certain thing about myself.
Yeah.
I need you to tell me like the truth and like the power statement behind that. And it can be really helpful.
I do that to my boyfriend a lot, and I never am looking for like, I'm never fishing for compliments. I literally just need to voice it sometimes of, I feel really swollen and bloated today and I don't know why. And all sometimes I need is like a hug and a, hey, you don't look bloated, even if you feel bloated. Like that's really all you need sometimes. And then the second thing I wanted to say, and this is like one of those things, again, you might need to wait a little bit and start healing on your own before tackling this. But if someone or something from your childhood is what is causing, or even just like a relationship you just had or a friendship that just ended or whatever, sometimes you need a little bit of closure to allow those insecurities to kind of fade away. So like, I feel like actually sitting down and having mature conversations with people is sometimes the only way to get over certain things. Like some of my body dysmorphia and things like that came from my brothers fully just joking with me as a kid and me not understanding what was a joke and not. Because when I was like 12, 13, like quote unquote becoming a woman and like starting to gain weight, starting to get boobs, like all of these weird things we're not used to, my brothers started commenting on my weight a lot. And like, it's already tough being a 12, 13-year-old girl going through like adolescence. And I've talked to them as adults and been like, that really messed me up, dude. Or like they've heard me talk about it on the podcast and they've reached out and been like, I never meant it that way. I never knew you took it seriously. I never knew it affected you now, like 15, 20 years later even, you know? And it's just one of those things that having those conversations can sometimes heal that wound that's causing these insecurities. And unless you do that and tackle that, they might always persist, even if it's in the back of your mind and you don't pay it a ton of attention. Working through it is usually the best way. And if you don't have those relationships where you can do that, therapy is great. Talking to friends is great. Talking to family is great. As long as you're creating conversations to start healing that part of yourself, I feel like that's the biggest step you can take to overcome something that's like been festering inside of you.
Yeah. Kendall and I both did this around food with our moms, you know, like we had like insecurities about like food and how we felt about food and, you know, eating too much or eating, you know, quote unquote, eating too much or eating too little or the portion sizes or whatever it was. We had these conversations as adults with our moms. And one thing that I wanted to mention too is that someone actually commented, I think on the YouTube channel, was something that we mentioned because we were talking about how our mothers compliment us and they try to connect with us and it's just so different than it is now. And she like appreciated that we mentioned that like they're trying to connect and like love us and it's it's just in a different language than it is now. And so I just wanted to talk about that comment because that was really, I appreciated that comment.
Going through my negative relationship with food and having a therapist where we talked a lot about, okay, a lot of this is stemming from my childhood, and then bringing those conversations to my mom brought my mom and I so much closer because we not trauma bonded, but kind of trauma bonded, where we were both trying to evolve in the stage where I was trying to get rid of these ties and she was trying to be the best mom she could be. And it just brought us closer because now we fully understood each other on a deeper level, you know?
Yeah. And like at the end of the day, like all of us women have experienced a lot of the same pain and a lot of the same hurt, you know, just socially. So like we all can relate in so many ways. So you're right. Like when I talked to my mom about the food stuff, like it did bring us a lot closer. She was able to understand because most of the time, like a majority of the time, like no one's trying to be malicious. No one's like intentionally trying to hurt you. It's just something like that they just said. Like, you know how in our head we get about certain things. Like it's something you just maybe off the cuff, you know, and you're not intentionally trying to hurt or harm someone or cause them like trauma. Like as an adult, our parents aren't trying to traumatize us, you know. They're doing the best that they can with the knowledge that they have.
Yeah. So I feel like if you're able to tackle the source like that, that's a great option. Or just work with, again, like talking with friends, family, therapists, whatever, journaling, even talking with yourself, just about forgetting certain memories or leaving certain things in the past where they belong instead of like constantly carrying that with you. Because so much baggage, like that goes back to just like running miles in your head. Like you're carrying all of these past thoughts and past words and things like that with you.
And sometimes you're carrying stuff that's not even yours, you know, kind of like you were saying before. One thing, I think that Ed Milet says it, but he says like a lot of things like that we grow up as children, they're caught, not taught. So like your parents not in like saying you should think this way about yourself, but you catch it unintentionally. Like for me, you know, my mom was never like, your body looks terrible and you should eat small portions. She never did that.
Yeah.
But I caught things and took it on when she would try and like teach me portion control. You know, you just ate, like maybe sit and think about what you're eating first, which is all good things. But I took it in a different way.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
A lot of the time it's like how we interpret things, not how it actually happened.
Exactly.
And reflecting on that too, like exactly with that T chart of being like, this is how I feel, but this is actually what happened. Like here's the truth, and this is just how I'm interpreting it, and making it a bigger deal. The next little step that can help in the journey, and this one probably helped me the absolute most, is just challenging negative thoughts and replacing them with positive ones. We're pretty good now about catching ourselves when we verb something wrong or use a word the wrong way and it means something negative, or we say something negative about ourselves. It took a lot of practice, but now we'll catch ourselves and go, oh, that's not what I meant. I meant this. Or just correct yourself in the moment, or even correct yourself after the fact, you know? But it takes practice in the beginning of when you have these thoughts of like, oh, my body looks X, Y, and Z, all these negative thoughts, or my skin looks this way, or my hair looks this way, just all of these physical negatives, I hate myself type of wording. It's about catching those in those instances and flipping the narrative to be not even something overly positive, and we've talked about that. That's sometimes being like, I'm sexy and
neutrality.
Beautiful. Yeah. Sometimes that's a little too much, but being like, you know, I'm bloated today and that's fine, and I'm going to wear this outfit instead and still feel good, and I'm allowed to still feel good because being bloated is not the end of the world, and it's not going to ruin my life. Oh, I have acne today. I'm just going to feel more confident if I put a hat on. Okay, now I feel better. Let's move on with our day, instead of just letting those negative thoughts win over and over and feeding into them, and now that's all you think about all day. Oh, I ended up wearing this crop top. Now I feel bloated. Now everyone notices I'm bloated, and now you're not present again, you know? Versus if you just said, oh, I'm a little bloated today. Oh, here's something I could do about it. Or, okay, I'm bloated. So what? I'm just going to go about my day anyway. It's about how much acknowledgement you give those negative thoughts is how much they will fester.
Very true. Yeah. Like the more that you think about it and obsess about it, like the worse that you feel about it. And I love that you said like being a little bit more like neutral about it, because I'm going to be real, but when I was struggling the most, like for me, it was like body image issues. And I feel like a lot of women can relate to that being one of the biggest ones that we struggle with. Yeah. And there was a big portion of that where being super positive about it didn't work either, where it was like, I look sexy. I'm the prettiest girl to ever walk this planet and grace your presence. Like that didn't work. I can do that now.
Positive affirmations are great.
Yes.
But if you know you're almost lying to yourself and you're not putting any truth behind it, you're just going to feel funny.
Yeah. Your mind knows if you don't believe it. That's the thing, is like, you can say all these things, but you actually have to believe it. And that does come with time. So being more neutral about it, like Kendall was saying, and being like, okay, maybe I don't like how my body looks, but like, what does my body do for me? Okay. My body, I just went to the gym and lifted like weights. Like my body is doing that. I have been alive for this many years. I'm strong. Like, what does your body do for you? That's a little bit more neutral.
Is I have so many clients and past clients that are moms, and they compare their body to like their high school body or their college body, and they're hating on themselves for not looking that way anymore. And I said, that body that you're comparing yourself to didn't carry a child, didn't give birth. It also
doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly. Exactly. Think about all of the things your body has gone through to make you the age you are now, and everything it's carried with you. Like I think it's beautiful to view your body in that way. And that brings me to the second thing, and an easy way to start replacing these thoughts is, instead of finding your insecurities, you also want to make a list of your securities. So on the flip side, what do you love about yourself? And actually write it down and be really honest. And this is one of those things, same thing with the like being overly positive, and like, don't lie to yourself. I started with nothing physical because I hated myself at a time in my life, to the point where I couldn't find something physical I loved. And we all get that way sometimes. I understand it. I'm there with you if you're going through that right now. But the list I made had to do more with my characteristics and my personality, because that's what I could find that confidence and love in first.
And at the end of the day, and I know this is going to sound cheese balls, but that's all that matters. that's most of the time why people end up falling in love with you. When it's true love, they end up and not just like the physical,
lust.
but the real reason that Cooper fell in love with you, that Zach fell in love with me, that my parents love me, that my friends love me, is not for how I look. It's not for my extensions, my nails being done. It's for like my personality and my heart and for how I care. So I love that, like making a list of those things.
So that's what I started with. And even then it was really hard. Like I said, it takes a lot of force and practice in the beginning, where every time I said exactly what you said, oh, I don't like this thing about my body. Oh, but my body is strong and my body is capable and my body loves other people and does all these things and is able to hug my family. Like, just focusing on the things that you can love about yourself. And then like slowly I tried to add physical attributes in there, because I still think that's important. If you're really hating on something about your body, it's good to find something you can like really love. So like I ended up loving that I can put on muscle really easily. That's something I was insecure about for like my whole teenage years, because it felt a little weird being like the muscular girl at a high school full of quote unquote normal looking people. I was like, why are my arms triple their size? And that's something I was always insecure about. And then I realized, oh, I could use this and this could become my job, and I can help other people learn how to use their muscles. Just finding the good in whatever it is, because there is a silver lining to everything. You know, you could find something you don't like about yourself and find the part of that you do like, and just carry that one good part with you around instead of all of that bad.
Yeah, it's like turning your pain into power.
Exactly.
I mean, you can definitely do that with so many of these things, and that's basically the entire brand. Is, of course I was in a point of being in a lot of pain just with how my life was going and being insecure and not being confident, and I turned that pain into power. And you can definitely do that too and help not only yourself but a lot of people around you too.
Yeah, I feel like that's where a lot of my confidence finally started growing, was realizing I could help other people. And sometimes in helping other people, you're helping yourself and you're connecting and you're growing together. Like every client I've had that has gone on a journey, and like all of them have gone on journeys, even if you don't lose the weight you set out to lose or gain the muscle you set out to gain, you're still going through such like a mental and transformative time and like learning to love yourself. And again, back to my mom, I saw this a lot with my mom, who was someone who hated on her own body weight for majority of my life. When she lost the weight, like she started training when I like started going into bodybuilding. We kind of went into that together, and it wasn't the weight she lost, it was how she was carrying herself, and it was how she was walking into rooms. And I just saw her confidence and used that as, oh, she's becoming that way, so can I, Yes. So sometimes it's like external help helps internal health,
Yeah. I agree.
The next thing I want to add is setting realistic goals. We've talked about this a lot, I feel, recently especially, and it is just so true that showing up for yourself and succeeding at something is the easiest and biggest way to gain confidence. If you're doing something you set out to lift a certain amount of weight or do a certain amount of cardio, and you actually do it and you show up for yourself and you're achieving these realistic goals, that's slowly increasing your self-trust and your self-confidence, and that just snowballs into other avenues of your life. And I know you speak on this a lot better than I do.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it really does. One thing that I say a lot is that like fitness is the gateway drug to personal development.
Literally.
Because a lot of our fitness journeys, like, let's be real, they do start from a quote unquote vain place where we want to like change our physique. But what happens is that we learn discipline. We learn how to have habits. We learn how to stay in integrity with the things that we say we're going to do. And that's what builds confidence and helps you relinquish some of those insecurities, because a lot of the insecurities also and lack of confidence and self-worth comes from you're not doing the things that you say that you're going to do. So then you feel bad about yourself. Then you start to call yourself names, and it's a whole like spiral thing. Yeah. And that's why, your mom went through the journey of like weight loss, because probably before she wasn't doing any of the things that she said that she wanted to do. It was always just like a far-fetched dream, and you're just kind of looking out at it from way back here, and it seems like it's unattainable and unachievable. And then once you finally do it, you're like, wow, like I did that thing, and it feels really good.
Yeah. It will never not boost your confidence to achieve something or show up for yourself.
For sure.
The last thing I want to add, and this was honestly, if you ask me what actually helped you become confident, I am a huge fan of fake it till you make it. And I know that people use that jokingly, but there's so much truth behind faking something until it becomes your reality. That's really what manifesting is like speaking something into existence, living as though you are a certain person until that actually becomes who you are, if it's in a positive light, hopefully. Before any interaction, before any meeting someone or anything for work meetings or walking into a room, I would sit with myself and say, what would confident Kendall do? Like if I was a confident person, how would I act? How would I walk? How would I talk to people? How would I greet other people? How would I talk about myself? And that's the energy I carried into all of those interactions. And in the beginning, it felt like a full-on persona where I was like, oh, confident Kendall's walking in this room, not real Kendall, right? And then over time of doing that every day and every interaction I had, I just became confident Kendall. It wasn't an act anymore.
Confident Kendall. KK.
That's like the whole series we did on, it's not KK.
I know. I know.
That's the whole series we did on like becoming her. I feel like is a lot of that is embodying who you want to be, and eventually you just become her and you don't even realize that you did.
Yes, most of the time you become her without even realizing you're like, oh shit, I'm it.
Yeah.
I am it. And I love what you said, because it's very true. Like each like level, you know, that you grow within your life, really embodying all the attributes of that person that you want to become, which ultimately like you already are it. Like you have it inside you.
You just gotta believe in yourself.
Like God wouldn't put the desire in you if it wasn't supposed to be for you. And you just have to act as if you are that already. I did this when I wanted to be an IFBB pro. You know, what would an IFBB pro do? What would she say? How would she act? How would she treat other people? You know, how disciplined would she be with her food and her workouts and stuff? And eventually, like, I became what it meant to be like an IFBB pro. And I do that with different, you know, levels of my life. And it kind of just does go back to like faking it till you make it, and just like acting like that person that you want to become and embodying it and truly just like believing it, because it does end up manifesting into your reality.
Yeah.
Which is super cool.
I have that tattooed on me. Manifest your reality, baby.
Baby.
The only other thing I want to say about that is obviously don't just fake it till you make it. Still do the work behind the scenes. But I think doing both of those together, where in interactions and in your daily life, you are becoming this fake confident, eventually real confident person, while also working on your past trauma and things you're working through and journaling and talking to people and overcoming those hurdles. That combination is ultimately what got me, at least, to be a lot less insecure. Like I look back on me even 3 years ago and I'm like, I don't even recognize her anymore, because we just have very different viewpoints of ourselves, you know? And I used to be that person where I would almost try to like beat people to the punchline. Like if I knew I had an insecurity, I would point it out as soon as I met someone or as soon as I had interactions with people, because I wanted them to know, hey, I know I don't look good right now, or I know this outfit doesn't look good, or whatever my insecurity was. And I realized that
they're probably like, huh?
Exactly. Why no one would ever know your insecurities unless you told them. Why speak them? And then you're giving them so much power by being like, my outfit isn't good today, or I don't look good today, or I gained a lot of weight over the holidays. Like things no one else would notice or say or do. And you would never say that to someone else. You wouldn't be like, oh, you gained a lot of weight over the holidays.
You gained a lot of weight, right? Okay.
Why the heck are you saying it about yourself?
You're acting like no one else doesn't notice. It's like nobody cares.
Yeah, no, seriously. And
literally
and
no
people really like being around confident energy. So that was one of those reasons where I was creating like Pinterest boards with like sayings and honestly saving photos of girls that I thought looked badass and just all these things that was like, okay, this is the energy I'm going to try to channel, because that's an energy I'm attracted to, and you want to attract what you're attracted to, you know, instead of being the mopey girl that's always like, I don't look good, I don't feel good. No one wants to be.
And that's hard to be like around. Like that kind of energy is really hard to be around, and that might be difficult for you to hear, whoever's like across these audio waves, but that is a difficult person to be around, because especially if, you know, if it's like two mopey girls that are just constantly putting themselves down, you know, then misery loves company. But if you're somebody that's like, I'm actively trying to not be that way, it's like this person's just bringing themselves down over and over, and it's a real hard energy to be around because it's very easy to get sucked into. So one of the things that I encourage you with your friend group or whoever, if it's your mom also, you know, I do this with my mom and my sister as well, but like if any of us are saying any of these negative things about ourselves, if we're picking ourselves apart, like we will call each other out, you know, and not in a mean way. We're just like, no, I was like, mom, like, or sister, or they'll do it to me. You know, my sister will be like, shut up. Like, that's not true. And that's like the way that we talk about, you know, the way we talk to ourselves. But Kendall and I do it for each other as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is going into these situations and saying, what would the most confident version of me do? And it's like,
she would never talk badly about
it's
herself.
that setup. And I know that it sounds silly to be like, why would you walk into a room and be like, what would confident Kendall would do? But eventually you're going to walk into a room and you don't even have to do that anymore because you have set an intention. And a lot of the times we just go about life without even having an intention of how we're going to act, you know, how we're going to show up, like how we want to present ourselves and the best that we can. And we just like walk in like, what's up? I looked like trash today. Like, what's good? And it took a lot of me doing that too, like going into social situations and being like, what would the most confident version of myself be, to where I can go into them now and I don't even have to think about it. I don't have to be like, oh my God, like, do I look okay? Did I say that right? Oh my God, she looked at me weird. Like, you know, is there something on me? I don't even think about that anymore. But it did take time and time again of me being like, okay, Julia, sitting with yourself. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go in there. We're going to be confident. You know, you're going to say what you mean. You're going to mean what you say. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
And then we would go in. I do that time and time again until you don't have to do it anymore.
Now you're able to go somewhere like the Arnold and have a line of people and not feel imposter syndrome and be able to meet those people and be yourself and not overthink every single interaction.
Yeah. Now I know, like, I deserve to be here. 100% deserve to be here. And
all of you do too.
Yes.
My heart really goes out to anyone who's actively dealing with insecurities, because I'm not even kidding. Like 5% I've been confident. 95% of my life I spent being probably the most insecure person in the room. And it was pretty miserable to live that way. Like I said, like I was never present. I was never happy. I was never fully living my life because I was living in my head. So if you're someone who's actively struggling, I really hope these steps like start to help you heal out of that. And like seriously, it is so worth pouring time and energy into healing these things.
So possible. It is so possible if you want it to be.
I never thought it was for me. So I think I'm proof enough.
I'm gonna share with you something too. The other day I was on a flight. I was on the flight back from the Arnold, and I was doing I'll like go through my photos and delete stuff and make space sometimes when I'm on a plane, because I'm like, what else am I gonna do? And I was looking back to photos of you and I, like from way back when, and I can also like, I saw them and I could just see like a physical change. It wasn't our physiques. That looked different. It was like this energy that we had then, like when we first met versus now. And I'm like, oh my God, like we're slaying. Not that we weren't slaying then, but you can tell that there was that level of like uncertainty, the lack of confidence. We didn't know our self-worth. And like now I see photos of like us together or separately, and I'm like, oh, we're slaying.
When it was your birthday and I was going through and making like the little collage, same thing, where I was like, wow, I was leaner then. I was in prep then. You would think I would feel better about my body then, but that's when I hated myself the most.
And it's almost like
crazy.
you see like that, like what is it called when you kind of just like, you're like,
I was in a shell.
It's almost like you're cowering. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that you were going.
I was.
Like we weren't going like this in the photos.
Yeah.
But you know the energy of like when someone is confident versus unconfident. And I can see in those past photos of us together, like both of us were just a little bit more like I'm gonna hide. Like I don't want to be seen. And you deserve to be seen. So stop hiding. Stop cowering away. You have so many qualities about you that are not physical, that are incredible. And eventually with time, I'm telling you, with practice and a lot of inner work, you can ditch some of these. And, you know, of course, they're going to come up every once in a while. You know, I literally this past weekend, my whole face broke out in a little like rash, and then I got a cold sore because I do that when I stress myself out. And like in the past, I would have been like, I am not going. That's it. I'm not going. And I was like, well, this is how it's going to be. I'm like, I'm going to have.
Exactly. That's just acceptance. It's just accepting yourself and your flaws, because we all have them, and sometimes they ebb and flow and they're not going to go away. But it's worth working on.
The work.
Yes. Anyway, we love you all so much. And remember, you are more powerful than you think.
Bye.